An HTML document should begin with the, less than head greater than tag, less than title greater than tag, less than body greater than tag, less than HTML greater than tag. HTML में कंट्रोल्स का एक संग्रह क्या कहलाता है? फॉर्म, फील्ड, टेबल, फ्रेम. HTML allows us to create three different kinds of ___ functions, events, files, lists. HTML allows us to use ___ levels of headings. 2, 3, 5, 6. Which attribute is used to display an alternate message? Size, alt, align, src. Checkboxes are used to enable option, to disable option, to create lists, to enable or disable option. The cell spacing attribute is used to specify the color of the border, specify the thickness of the border, specify the space between cells, specify the space between text and border. Interactive documents that can be created using a feature of HTML are called LESS. Forms, files, frames. Which of the following attributes specifies the name of the image file? Font, src, color, size. Which attribute can be used to change the color of visited links? Link, a link, vlink, all the above. Which attributes are used to define a form? Action and method, value and method, method and target, action and target. What is the use of an iframe in HTML? To display a web page within a web page. To display a web page with animation effect. To display a web page without a browser. All of the above. What does an less than article greater than element typically contain? Audio, text or embedded content, image, video. Which of these options lists only HTML tags related to tables, less than table greater than, less than head greater than, less than tfoot greater than, less than table greater than, less than tr greater than, less than td greater than, less than table greater than, less than tr greater than, less than tt greater than, less than thed greater than, less than body greater than, less than tr greater than. How can you open a link in a new browser window or tab? Less than a href equals URL, new greater than, less than a href equals URL, target equals new, greater than, less than a href equals URL, target equals underscore blank, greater than, less than a href equals URL, target equals greater than. The less than b greater than tag makes the enclosed text bold. What is another HTML tag that also makes text bold? Less than strong greater than, less than dir greater than, less than block greater than, less than emp greater than.
अगर आप ट्रिपल सी या ओ लेवल के स्टूडेंट हैं तो पेश है आपके लिए आपके सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड 1500 प्लस MCQs। इसमें क्वेश्चंस हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में हैं, शॉर्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन है और आपके डाउट सॉल्व करने के लिए चैट जीपीटी की सपोर्ट है। अगर आप इसे ट्राई करना चाहते हैं तो प्ले स्टोर से एंकी ड्रॉइड डाउनलोड करें और हमारी वेबसाइट acemcqs.gt.tc पर जाकर अपने सब्जेक्ट के फ्री सैंपल सेट डाउनलोड करें और एंकी ड्रॉइड में इंपोर्ट करके इस्तेमाल करना शुरू करें। अगर आपको अच्छा लगे तो बाय नाउ पर क्लिक करके गूगल फॉर्म फिल करें। हम आपका 1500 प्लस क्वेश्चन का सेट 1 से 6 घंटे के अंदर आपके व्हाट्सएप नंबर और ईमेल पर भेज देंगे।
Which tag allows you to add a row in a table, less than td greater than and less than td greater than, less than row greater than and less than row greater than, less than th greater than and less than th greater than, less than tr greater than and less than tr greater than. How can you make a bulleted list, less than dl greater than, less than all greater than, less than list greater than, less than all greater than? What is the correct HTML code to create a hyperlink, less than a href equals https://bpbonline.com, greater than bookstore less than a name equals https://bpbonline.com, greater than bookstore less than link greater than https://bpbonline.com link greater than a URL equals https://bpbonline.com, greater than bookstore less than greater than. What does vlink attribute mean? Visited link, virtual link, very good link, active link. Which of the following are attributes of the font tag? Size, face, color. All of the above. Which of the following is not a type attribute value for the less than input greater than tag? Day, week, month, time. Which element does not support the autofocus attribute? Less than input greater than, less than select greater than, less than text area greater than, less than base greater than. The blank attribute adds space within each cell. Cell spacing, cell padding, width, align. Which is the HTML tag used for superscript text, less than sub greater than, less than superscript greater than, less than s greater than, less than superscripteds greater than. Which of the following are HTML text formatting tags? Less than b greater than, less than tt greater than, less than I greater than. All of the above. Which of the following is used to create an ordered list in HTML? Less than all greater than, less than all greater than, less than place greater than, less than HL greater than. Which of the following is the correct doctype declaration for an HTML5 document? Less than, doctype HTML greater than, less than, doctype HTML greater than, doctype HTMLs, less than doctype HTML greater than. HTML metadata is present in which of the following tags? Less than head greater than, less than body greater than, less than title greater than, less than p greater than. What is the marquee tag used for? To scroll a piece of text or image. Mark the list of items. To hide the text. None of the above. Which of the following attributes defines the URL of the page to embed when the less than iframe greater than tag is used? src, href, style, title. In unless than img greater than tag, what does img.png inside the double quote signify? Element, attribute, value, operator. Which of the following statements is true? The less than br greater than tag is used to create a line break. In tables, the header cell is centered by default and the data cells are right aligned. The less than tr greater than tag is used to create a data cell. And less than input greater than tag must have at least 4 attributes. Which of the following is a video format supported in HTML5? MP5, WebM, WBR. None of these. Which of the following is a valid new less than input greater than tag type introduced in HTML5, email, letter, fax? None of the above. What is hypertext? Text with complex technical jargon. Text exceeding 1000 words. Text that contains links to other texts. None of the above. Which HTML5 tag is used to define a set of navigation links, less than a greater than, less than nuv greater than, less than href greater than? None of the above. Which HTML5 semantic tag is typically used to represent an independent, self-contained piece of content, such as a blog post or a news story? Blog, newspaper, article, record. Which of the following is a generic inline element that applies no inherent formatting, div, span, color, width? Which of the following statements is not true about the HTML less than label greater than tag? It defines a label for many form elements. It is useful for screen reader users. It is useful for visually challenged users. All of the above are true. Which of the following statements is true about the less than iframe greater than tag? It is an inline frame. It is used to embed another document within a current HTML document. None of the above. Both option 1 and option 2 are true. Which HTML tag is typically used to represent inserted text, which browser usually display with an underline, less than I greater than, less than ins greater than, less than u greater than, less than m greater than? The less than del greater than element defines text that has been deleted from a document. How do browser typically display this deleted text? Red color, strike through, bold, black color. On which elements can the autofocus attribute be used? Button, input, select, all the above. Identify where a less than section greater than element can be used. Chapters, introduction, news item, all the above. Which of these is not a vibrant color? red, orange, white, purple. Which of the following is not a standard HTML tag related to frames, iframe, uframe, no frame, frame set? The HTML less than head greater than element of a web page primarily serves as a container for what type of information? Links, web pages, metadata, pictures. Identify the invalid less than input greater than tag, type, attribute value, radio box, checkbox, submit, text. Which of these is a non-semantic HTML element, less than div greater than, less than form greater than, less than table greater than, less than article greater than? HTTP put request method is used to return the contents of a specified document, return header information, place the specified document with the enclosed data, execute the specified document with the enclosed data. Which tag inserts a line horizontally on your web page, less than HR greater than, less than line greater than, less than line directing equals, horizontal, greater than, less than TR greater than? What should be the first tag in any HTML document? Less than head greater than, less than title greater than, less than HTML greater than, less than document greater than? In an HTML document, tags should be written in uppercase, should be written in lowercase, should be written in proper case, can be written in both uppercase or lowercase. HTML5 supports which character encodings? UTF-8, UTF-16, both A and B, none of these. What is favicon? The word favicon is a combination of favorite and icon. An icon associated with a particular website. Both A and B, none of the above. Which one is not an HTML5 tag? Less than source greater than, less than video greater than, less than slider greater than? All of these. Which of the following is not an HTML5 tag? Less than span greater than, less than nav greater than, less than frameset greater than? None of these. Which HTML tag is used to create an ordered list? Less than DL greater than, less than NL greater than, less than all greater than, less than all greater than? Which of these are new tags introduced in HTML5? Less than HTML greater than, less than head greater than, less than body greater than, less than B greater than, less than I greater than, less than U greater than, less than font greater than, less than article greater than, less than aside greater than, less than footer greater than, less than header greater than, less than mark greater than, less than nav greater than? All of these. How many heading levels are available in HTML? 4, 7, 6, 5. Which HTML tag is used for a short quote? Less than quote greater than, less than qt greater than, less than q greater than. None of these. What is the correct syntax for the doctype declaration in HTML5? Less than, doctype HTML greater than, less than doctype HTML greater than, less than doctype HTML greater than, less than, doctype HTML greater than. Which of the following is not an HTML5 tag? Less than track greater than, less than video greater than, less than slider greater than, less than source greater than. How do we write comments in HTML? Less than, comment text greater than. Less than, comment text to. Less than, comment text, greater than, less than comment text. Greater than. Which of the following elements in HTML5 defines video or movie content? Less than video greater than, less than movie greater than, less than audio greater than, less than media greater than. Which of the following is not the element associated with the HTML table layout, alignment, color, size, spanning? Which HTML tag is used to make text bold? Less than u greater than content less than, u greater than, less than b greater than content less than, b greater than, less than br greater than content less than, br greater than, less than I greater than content less than, I greater than. Which HTML tag is used to insert an image? Less than imgurl equals html logo.jpg, greater than, less than img alt equals html logo.jpg, greater than, less than img src equals html logo.jpg, greater than, less than img link equals html logo.jpg, greater than. Which character is used to indicate a closing tag in HTML? Hash, slash dot, backslash. Which of the following is the HTML paragraph tag? Less than p greater than, less than pre greater than, less than hr greater than, less than a greater than. In HTML, which attribute is used to create a link that opens in a new window tab? src equals, underscore blank, alt equals, underscore blank, target equals, underscore self, target equals, underscore blank. Which of the following HTML tag is used to create an unordered list? Less than all greater than, less than all greater than, less than li greater than, less than al greater than. How do you display hyperlinks without an underline? A decoration, no underline, a underline, none, a text decoration, none, a text decoration, no underline. Which HTML element is used for abbreviation or acronym? Less than ABBR greater than, less than block quote greater than, less than Q greater than, less than M greater than. Which of the following HTML tag is used to add a row in a table? Less than TH greater than, less than TD greater than, less than TR greater than, less than TT greater than. Which of the following tags is used to create a text area in an HTML form? Less than, text area greater than, less than, text area greater than, less than, text greater than, less than, text greater than, less than, input type equals, text, greater than, less than, input type equals, text area, greater than. To show deleted text, which HTML element is used? Less than, del greater than, less than, m greater than, less than, strong greater than, less than, ins greater than. Which tag is used to create a drop-down in an HTML form? Less than, input greater than, less than, select greater than, less than, text greater than, less than, text area greater than. Which tag is used to create a numbered list in HTML? Less than, all greater than, less than, ul greater than, less than, li greater than, less than, ul greater than. How to create a checkbox in an HTML form? Less than, input type equals, check, greater than, less than, input type equals, text area, greater than, less than, input type equals, checkbox, greater than, less than, checkbox greater than, text, less than, checkbox greater than. Which of the following extension is used to save an HTML file? html.web.com, HDOC. Which tag is used to create a blank line in HTML? Less than, b greater than, less than, br greater than, less than, m greater than, less than, blank greater than. Which HTML tag is used to convert plain text into italic format? Less than, italic greater than, less than, I greater than, less than, emp greater than, less than, imp greater than. What is the use of the less than, hr, greater than tag in HTML? For making content appearance italics. To create vertical rule between sections. To create a line break. To create horizontal rule between sections. Which attribute is not essential for an less than iframe greater than, frame border, width, height, src. Which HTML tag is used to underline text? Less than, un greater than, less than, u greater than, less than, under greater than, less than, ul greater than. Which HTML element is used to display YouTube videos on a web page? Less than, samp greater than, less than, source greater than, less than, iframe greater than, less than, YouTube greater than. In HTML, tags are generally written in uppercase, case sensitive, written in lowercase, not case sensitive. Which declaration is used in HTML5 to define the document type? Less than, doc type HTML greater than, less than, doc type HTML greater than, less than, doc type greater than, less than, doc type HTML greater than. What is the correct way to start an ordered list with a numeric count beginning from 5? Less than, all type equals 1, start equals 5, greater than, less than, all type equals 1, num equals 5, greater than, less than, all type equals 1, begin equals 5, greater than, less than, all type equals 1, initial equals 5, greater than. Which HTML tag do we use for displaying the power in the expression x squared minus y squared less than p greater than, less than sub greater than, less than sub greater than? None of the above. Text within the strong tag is displayed as indented, italic, list, bold. What is the less than TD greater than tag used for ler row, ler data cell, ler heading, ler caption? Which tag pair defines the start and end of an HTML document, less than HTML greater than? Web, less than body greater than, less than head greater than? What is the less than BR greater than tag used for line break, horizontal rule, heading, underline? Which HTML tag is used to create a table header, less than head greater than, less than head greater than, less than T-top greater than, less than T-top greater than, less than TH greater than, less than TH greater than, less than TD greater than, less than TD greater than? In the HTML tag less than imgsrc equals c. What is cell padding? Used to define the space between the cell content and its border. Used to set the space between table cells, both A and B. Used to provide width to a cell. What is a meta tag used for? To store information usually relevant to browser and search engines. To only store information usually relevant to browser. To only store information about search engines. To store information about external links.
इसमें क्वेश्चंस हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में हैं, शॉर्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन है और आपके डाउट सॉल्व करने के लिए चैट जीपीटी की सपोर्ट है। अगर आप इसे ट्राई करना चाहते हैं तो प्ले स्टोर से एंकी ड्रॉइड डाउनलोड करें और हमारी वेबसाइट asmcqs.gt.tc पर जाकर अपने सब्जेक्ट के फ्री सैंपल सेट डाउनलोड करें और एंकी ड्रॉइड में इंपोर्ट करके इस्तेमाल करना शुरू करें। अगर आपको अच्छा लगे तो बाय नाउ पर क्लिक करके गूगल फॉर्म फिल करें। हम आपका 1500 प्लस क्वेश्चन का सेट 1 से 6 घंटे के अंदर आपके व्हाट्सएप नंबर और ईमेल पर भेज देंगे।